Can you be the cheapest and still be the best? Maybe if you are a service professional. And that's because service professionals typically do not have huge capital outlays. So maybe you're paying for rent, and if you're a wedding photographer or a decor person, of course, you're going to have to pay for some inventories and some fulfillment. So you have to pay for some tablecloth. You would have bought your camera already. You have to pay for the photo book. So there's some material that you have to pay for, but these are not necessarily the biggest items that you consider when you're coming up with your costing as an event and wedding professional. So, if you're a service based professional, then I guess technically you could be the best, even though you are the cheapest. So, yeah, so that's it. That's the answer to the question. Can you be the cheapest and the best? Maybe if you're a service based professional, but if you are a professional that has huge capital outlays, that go into what it is that you produce, I don't know. Let's say, gosh, I can't think of any example at the moment, but there are people who have a large cost element to what it is, to how it is that they run their business. So if you're one of those types, you're taking input, you're putting it into a production schedule, and then out at the other end, you have something concrete. So let's say you manufacture slippers. Yeah, let's put it that way. Because I know a wedding planner here in Abuja who that is one of her businesses. She makes these really exquisite sandals, and then of course she has to pay craftsmen who make the deal. So in her own case, yes, on the wedding service, on the wedding planning side, she can be a cheap professional, even though she's the best. But when it comes to the slippers, on the other hand, the shoes that she produces, she can't be the cheapest and the best because she has to buy material, she has to pay for the artisans to do the work, and then of course there's the cost of marketing that is involved in the production of the good. Now, however, once we move beyond this whole whether you're the cheapest or you're the best thing, there's also this whole thing that we have to consider that you don't have to be the most expensive. Because typically, when we're having these conversations in the event and the wedding space, you have people who oscillate in between, that's either being cheap or either being on the top of the end, the top line of the market. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, that way. Perhaps you can look in the middle. You can be one of those people who is thinking about what is the most optimum pricing that I can pursue. What is the level of pricing that I can use that is going to get me the most number of customers and the largest number of profits. The largest quantity of profits. So for wedding photographers, for instance, is that perennial question about whether you're going to shoot one wedding a year at 3 million or whether you should do 20 weddings a year and each of them you charge 600k. So it's just one of those questions to consider. So should quality, in considering these sorts of things, should quality be directly related to price? Maybe if you're a luxury good, then yes, like Ferraris. So the whole thing about the quality of the engineering, what kind of aeronautic carbon fibers you're using in the body of the car, or let's see, what else, the kind of materials that you're using and on and on. So maybe if you're in the luxury space, then I guess quality has to be directly related to price. And then inversely, there's also another spectrum of the market where quality is directly related to price, and that is when you're dealing with commodity goods. So if you're buying cassava, you're buying cashews, you're buying groundnuts, you're buying sesame, to a certain extent, quality is directly related to the price, because if it's just raw material at poor quality, it's going to be at a poor price. If it's raw material at a standard quality, it's going to be a different price. And then, of course, if it's raw material that has had some production added to it. So let's say sesame that has been extracted of average quality, but it has been cleaned and sorted, then it's going to be another price. So this is one of those situations where quality is directly related to price. But then again, as I've shown in the earlier conversations, for service professionals, it's a little bit different. I think when it comes to service professionals, the whole thing about price should be a matter of market validation. So you have this central thesis, just take it and then go to the market and see how it performs at whatever price it is that you have decided to run with. So the example that I gave in my own experience was starting out in Lagos, wedding photographer, and then my central thesis was that there's going to be a market for people who do not like Photoshop. Now, if you look around on your Instagram these days, you'll find that yes, that there have been photographers that have successfully been able to push that value prop at really good prices. It's not something I was able to establish while I was in Lagos and before I got to Abuja and then got distracted trying different kinds of photography. But the bottom line is this. You take your central thesis, like me and the other wedding photographers who do not believe in Photoshop, or a client who is a decor person, and for her, she thinks gold is garish, and she thinks gold is garish, and that only northern clients like that, and for her, that's not her kind of market, and so she's looking towards different sorts of things when it comes to home decor. She's trying out muted colors, different shades of orange, blues, and purples. She's avoiding what she thinks are garish colors. So you have this thesis, just approach the market and then see how it is that it pans out. So it's market validation that is going to determine how much you charge, in my own opinion. Because you might find that for the no Photoshop thing, you're not able to make a play. You've not been able to achieve market fit, and then you have to make it fold, or maybe look for more better ways of selling or advertising or whatever it is, and it's going to be the same on the example that we gave about the interior decor. So just aim for market validation and don't be so much in your feels about this. The reason why I'm talking about all of this today is because I've been seeing some stuff flying on the gram, and of course it makes sense, but I figure I'd like to address the community over here, those of us in the wedding and the event space, because a lot of us, we consider ourselves to be artists, and so we are personally yoked to we find a lot of personal validation with the prices that people pay for our work, and it doesn't necessarily have to be so. So this whole question of being the cheapest and then being the best and then all whatnot, there's too much head trash regarding this thing when it comes to the wedding and the event space. So the fact that you are being low prices does not mean that you personally are being devalued, and the fact that you're able to command a ton of loot doesn't necessarily mean that you are the best. So let's change our lexicon when it comes to this whole thing of price versus quality. Let's remove the head trash and let it be a matter of market validation. So wake up in the morning and don't let your personal sense of worth be tied to whether somebody paid you 1.2 to plan the wedding versus maybe 6M. Just wake up and let this thing be a challenge of how am I going to establish market fit? How am I going to establish market validation? Who is my market? Who are my customers? Who am I chasing down? What's the best way to approach them? How do I initiate the conversation? And how much value am I able to provide in the transaction? How much value am I able to extract? And then you keep tweaking, and you take feedback and you keep tweaking the process. So let's be more clinical about it and less personally involved. So maybe all of this thing around quality and price is good for motivation's sake because it makes you feel good, and so you can wake up as a wedding planner and you feel I'm on top of the world. I'm the best. I'm going to charge according to what I'm worth and blah blah and all of that. So yes, it has the motivational element to it, but the dangers far outweigh the benefits because there are times when you get into slumps and you have to take one or two low bids just to get by, and then you end up feeling like, well, you charge cheap, therefore you are cheap. So let's remove our head trash from all these conversations when it comes to quality and price and self-worth and all of that. Let's make it purely a matter of market validation and trying to achieve market fit. So that's it. How am I approaching the market? Did I approach the market right? Was I able to prove my thesis about the value that I'm going to bring to the market? If I was able to prove it, good. Take the feedback, move on. If I wasn't able to prove it, maybe I ought to quit. But if I don't quit, and I think the problem was with how I approach the market, my sales and my marketing processes, then of course innovate and try and revamp on your selling and your marketing and your advertising and all of that. But please remove the head trash. Because you collect 50K from someone doesn't mean you're cheap, and because you collect 2M from someone doesn't mean that you're the absolute best and you're the best thing since sliced bread. So yeah, that's it pretty much. So thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based sales consultant and event media professional, Tavishima Ayede. Thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. And also, of course, apologies for the noise. Remember, I told you guys that my neighbor converted his house into a commercial kitchen. And so, unfortunately, from time to time while I'm making this recording, you will hear stuff like that. His staff, faffing about in the background, or maybe hacking away at, turkey or meat or whatever. It's just one of the wonderful things that we are exposed to when you're trying to run a business in Abuja. So thank you very much, guys. I'll catch you at the next recording.